William Shakespeare's impact on media as a whole is undeniable. Countless works throughout history have been directly inspired by his plays, and cinema is no exception, with some of the most famous films of all time being inspired by Shakespeare. Not even the Star Wars franchise could avoid Shakespeare's influence. While none of the films are free from his influence, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, most clearly mirrors the structure, tone, and style of a Shakespearean tragedy. All 6 Lucasfilm-era Star Wars films function as chapters in a larger, overarching narrative that tells the story of the rise, fall, and redemption of Anakin Skywalker, but they also function as standalone films. While the full Star Wars story is far from a tragedy, Revenge of the Sith as a standalone story matches almost beat for beat with Shakespearean tragic plays. Macbeth, Hamlet, Othello, and every other tragic work by Shakespeare share 6 key elements. Firstly, they all have a 5-act structure consisting of exposition, development, change of direction, further development, and the climax/resolution. Second, they share a struggle between good and evil with both external and internal conflict. Third, they all share a lack of poetic justice along with tragic waste, or when the heroes and villains are both destroyed at the end. Fourth and fifth are the presence of supernatural elements and comic relief, respectively. But most importantly, they all share a flawed protagonist who starts out in a high, virtuous status, who then loses that status due to mistakes caused by their flaws, by fate, or by a combination of the two. If you're a Star Wars fan, you probably already can identify places where Revenge of the Sith most obviously shares these elements. For example, the 2 main rival factions of the film, the Republic versus the Separatists and the Jedi versus the Sith, are clear struggles between good and evil. The supernatural elements are also very clear, with the Force being the main driver of Anakin's prophetic dreams, but also of his, and all the other Jedi and Sith's, power. And, despite this being the darkest Star Wars movie by far, and the only one to achieve a PG-13 rating, comic relief is featured quite frequently. The opening of the film is quite lighthearted, with large quantities of funny dialogue and jokes, and silly moments from the battle droids and R2-D2. The phrase Obi-Wan-liners exists within the Star Wars community for a reason, after all.
Get help, you're no match for him. He's a Sith Lord.
Chancellor Palpatine, Sith Lords are our speciality.
Oh, this is going to be easy.
Hello there.
However, many films feature a struggle between good and evil and funny moments, so now it's time to discuss the deeper elements of this comparison. Anakin fits the definition of a tragic hero to a T. He is a renowned Jedi Knight and hero of the Clone Wars to the public, and within the Jedi Order he is known as the Chosen One, destined to bring balance to the Force. Lofty praise and high expectations are quite common among Shakespearean tragic heroes. Othello and Macbeth are both generals and nobles quite close to the king, and Macbeth even receives a prophecy from 3 witches who state he is destined to be king one day. But, for both of them, due to their own actions, they wind up losing all of this along with their lives. Anakin similarly loses his wife, the Republic, the Jedi, his children, his 3 remaining limbs, much of his power in the Force, his ability to breathe or eat without a machine, his identity, and arguably his life.
From a certain point of view.
A certain point of view?
Palpatine manipulates Anakin quite similarly to how Iago manipulates Othello, planting seeds of fear that lead the heroes down dark paths they otherwise would never go down. The last element of Shakespearean tragedy that this film shares is the concept of tragic waste, or nobody coming out on top at the end. Everybody, good or evil, loses. While this is somewhat untrue for Palpatine, as he ends the film by becoming Emperor of the Galaxy, for every other character in the film, this principle reigns true. The Jedi, save for 2, are extinct by the end of the movie, but so are the Separatists and every other villain, like General Grievous and Count Dooku. Anakin, Padme, and countless other characters, both good and bad, are killed, driven into exile, or have their lives absolutely destroyed one way or the other. Everyone left alive other than Palpatine has experienced tremendous loss, and their lives will never be the same. It seems like Palpatine's success in the end is the one factor that prevents the film from unquestionably being Shakespearean, but the film as a whole shares enough similarities with his plays to definitively show that George Lucas, intentionally or unintentionally, took some inspiration from the most influential playwright in history.